Chapter 23. The Island of Rudwin. They slept rough on the grass that night, and on the morning splashed their faces in the cold water of the stream to try and wake and refresh themselves. No easy task in a hard land. Ahead of them, grey mountains loomed. They saw them clearly in the daylight. As they strode onwards towards the afternoon, the land steadily began to change again. The fine fields, meadows, and woods they found the other day now began to go down. Trees grew more sparsely, till there were none, except a few old firs in the hills, or clinging doggedly to rocketed cliffs. The grassy plains then vanished, and the land became harsh and rocky. There were tufts here and there of something that might have once belonged to a greener and fairer realm. Maybe they saw flowers near the streams where there were lilies, and on the rocks green moss, damp and slippery. But then as the day waned, they passed over the border into Zandia, and discovered that this was mostly barren land. The grass in these parts had been all burned away. The few remaining clumps were brown and shriveled. The last few trees were grey and broken. Certainly no flowers grew at all. Before them now was a desert of ash. For many miles these loathsome, unfriendly grey fields stretched right up to the southern horizon, and then they reached the mountainous hills which lay across the border, and these were harsh, crumbling, and sheer-sided. They flaked away if you merely touched them, and little movement was required before the stone would split, and then sometimes rocks or even boulders rolled down from above, seemingly from nowhere. There were no sounds, no birds, no insects, no wolves howling at night to the moon. It was a quiet, solemn, and dead place. A grey place, a place of stone and ash. Some of the rivers and the streams had dried up completely, leaving shadowy canyons. Fumes rose from the pits, as if in the wake of volcanic activity. The great lakes of this land had been melted down to puddles, and now these little pools bubbled fiercely, and a hot haze drifted over them. Their own stream that had passed along was now very hot, and it bubbled quite aggressively in places. Soon it grew so hot that it scorched the skin. The closer they came to the dragon lair, the warmer the air grew, the hotter the waters became, and the bubbling pools leaped like fountains from their depths. The fumes from the underground were black as night. Then, in the sky, they saw a sight that truly unsettled them. A huge shape appeared. It was winged, dark, and great it was, and it sailed over the distant mountains far away. It drew back at one moment, and then suddenly towards them. The weary travellers got themselves in their boats to land and hid under the arch of a huge, curving rock. Above them the shadow passed over. It then turned away, then another, and glided back to where it had first struck out. The friends proceeded from here, but now they were on their feet in the canyon of a dried-up river, carrying the boats as they walked along. They hoped that in the canyon they would have more shelter from the eyes of the winged creature should it, by some turn of bad luck, return. "I guess it was Mazeus that we saw," assumed Miss Staff. "What else could it have been? And Boldadoff told me that the beast makes regular patrols over what he considers to be his dominions." "Oh, it was him all right," said Gursley abruptly. "There is no creature in this world that large and with wings. Let us hope he spends most of his days asleep. It would be a miserably bad luck were he to catch us now." Before them stood the mountains of Zandia, great and bold and grim. The snow on their caps had melted down to the ground, and into a great lake, out of which still strode the teeth of lesser mountains, their foothills and roots now engulfed in the depths. Around them circled a haze, for the waters in the lake were continuously boiled in the heat of the great beast that lived there. Here, in front of them, lay the way to his dreadful lair. Islands of rock came up from the waters around his home like enormous guarding spears. That's how they looked. Put down by giants to ward off intruders. The great stones rose tall and sharp from the sea like stone spikes. Around and around they stood, and in the middle of the smoking pool the island of Rudwin lay. In the haze of the smoke and in the dead stone it waited, the end of their journey. The island was, at its border, low to the water, but it gently began to rise up. At the top it was crowned by the Snail's cave. It was huge, and you could see it from far away, shaped like the head of a gigantic lizard. Its jaws opened, and the throat, a gasping cavern, the only known way in. Black smoke rose out of its stone mouth. The dragon lived there, inside the jaws and behind the rocky teeth, in the tunnels rooted deep under the ground, wriggling up in some hole like a vast and powerful worm. The mists gathered thickly at morning and at night, and at those times you couldn't see the island of Rudwin, not at all. But during the day, as it was then, with some sunshine above, the island could be clearly perceived. The great hills on either side of it opened, like the folded pages of a great book. The waters and the mist lay at its rim, and from out of the centre the island rose clearly, stark and strong, its foundations. From the steam and the smoke the giant teeth of rock marched, resembling the points of a huge crown. A magic lay here still, lingering over the island. Old and forgotten it was, but at day still clearly visible. There were 3 tiny islands that were floating above the water, a strange, lonely rainbow cut down from the clouds. All of its colours were there, clear and easy to see, even when it was night. The rainbow shone over the shell of an old town, some forgotten settlement the dragon had dealt with long ago. The rooftops of all the old buildings just peeped over the water, but above everything there was a second moon, and this moon you could only see while in Xander, and there it glowed, blue of hue, and circled by a band of red vapour. "Does anyone live here in this land?" asked Rudwin. But at first no one replied. I believe there are some people still around in these parts," answered Midstaff eventually, daring to break the quiet. "They live in the fear of the dragon, though." "Of course. I would live in fear as well, if this awful place was my home," said Rudwin, gazing over the blasted waste, then at the hideous island that lay in the middle of the smoke and the water and the jagged rocks. "No, thank you, sir. No trees and no grass. I do not like it, not one bit." They started to prepare their boats for the journey across the lake, and as they were setting their boats on the water, there was a whistling sound, and from a rocky path above, a strange, gruff dwarf came forth. "Strangers," he shouted at them, "forgive my interest, friends, but it is such a very rare thing for one's eyes to see, such a colourful array of outlanders wandering in these unhallowed parts." "Are you a traveller?" Midstaff inquired. "I am not, I am afraid. This land is my home, believe it or not," he replied. "So you are one of those who still manage to live here, then?" said Rudwin. "No, not here, precisely, but my home is not far away, over there, in fact." He waved a hand at a mountain. There was nothing else to see there. "We have seen you from some miles away," he continued. "We have scouts in the hills on watch, and our lord, the master of these here parts, would have words with you. Your strange expedition to these inhospitable lands interests him." "Why?" asked Midstaff, a little bit worried by this. "Not many head your way," and he nodded the island of Rudwin. "Then lead on," said Rudwin. "Our journey here is a private matter that we do not discuss freely, but we wish to be friends with all, except goblins and dragons, of course." "Well said," spoke the dwarf, who seemed well pleased to hear them speak so candidly of their loyalties. "I must say," he then went on to speak, "I see there is a dwarf here," and he regarded Midstaff closely. "An Easterner, by your bearing, am I not right?" Midstaff nodded. "I can tell by your garb," said the strange dwarf. "You, sir, are more than a friend in these parts." "I greet you," Midstaff replied humbly, "using the requisite etiquette." He bowed. "But you," he looked at Rudwin, then long and with much thought. "I cannot say what you are," he said. "Are you a dwarf, maybe? From some place over the seas?" "Trollver, sir, thank you," the dwarf bowed. "There is a strange road that leads over the hills yon. Follow me and you shall see." Then he led them along a cunning path, scratched into the rocks. Every so often he would look one way, then another, then every now and then make a signal to one of the watch. There were hundreds of dwarfs in these little nooks, hiding away. You couldn't see them, of course, but they could certainly see you, and of that there was no doubt.